Hello everyone, and welcome to this video tutorial on how to build IIIF compliance within your Omeka S archival system. We'll do this by installing three different modules: the IIIFServer, the ImageServer, and the UniversalViewer modules. In order to follow along, you'll need Omeka S installation on a server somewhere, be it a virtual machine or a web-based development environment or whatever you're using. If you don't have Omeka S somewhere, you can create your own instance by following another one of my video tutorials on how to install Omeka S on a Debian server. So if you have an instance of Omeka S, we can just jump right into it. First, I just want to quickly address what IIIF is. It's the International Image Interoperability Framework. You can get more information by going to the IIIF.io website. They have a nice About section here that gives us a brief description of exactly what this does. And from my own perspective, I think this is really important in terms of creating APIs or application programming interfaces that support the interoperability between image repositories. So this allows systems to communicate with one another using a standardized framework. I suspect most people who are watching this video are probably already familiar with IIIF, but I would encourage those that would like to learn more to visit the website and have a look around. Okay, so I think the first thing we'll need to do is get into our servers, and I'm going to do that through my terminal. And so you're welcome to use whatever tools you need to get into your own server. Let's see, I have a virtual machine set up for this demonstration, so I'm just going to SSH into that. SSH J Kellogg at 10.3.20.14, I think is where I'm at. I'm putting my password. Okay, good. So I have SSH'd into my demonstration server, which I have called the IIIF-tutorial. I'm just going to go ahead and clear all of that. And what we'll need to do is navigate into the var www HTML directory. Whoops, I have to cd. Okay. And so it's fairly likely that your installation of Omeka S is going to be in this directory. If it's not, then you're going to want to navigate to wherever the root directory is for your instance of Omeka S. And I'm just going to quickly list the contents here. And what we need to do is go into this modules directory. So we will cd into modules. And I can go ahead and do ls and see if we have anything in there. And right now, all we have is the README. So at this point, what we need to do is go online and download all of the modules that we need. So if we go to a browser, and what I'm going to do is search for IIIF server Omeka S. Omeka S. And by doing that search, I get the three modules that we're after. So what I'm going to do is just open each one in a new tab. That way we have quick access. So the first thing we're going to need is the IIIFServer. And at this point, there's some decisions that you'll need to make. And really, these are all dependent on what version of Omeka S you're using. So we need to check that before we start. I'm going to just go ahead and open up the page for, let's see, actually, I think that was 14. Let's put that in there. And we're going to need to go to the admin page. So go ahead and do that. And once we're here, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see what version you're currently running. And so this is really important because depending on what version of Omeka S you have, depends on what version of the module you will download. So we'll look here back at the server page, the IIIF server, and you'll notice that under this important heading here that the most stable version can be found at this link. If we go ahead and click that, you'll find that the most recent stable version is 3.5.16. 3.5.16 is not compatible with Omeka 3.0, the version that I have. So I'm going to need to get the most recent version, regardless of the fact that it is not the most stable version. If you're running Omeka 2.0 and above, or just, Omeka 2.0, this is the download that you're going to want to do. The process for installing any version is pretty much the same. It is slightly different, and part of the reason for that is this newer version, which is what I'm going to install, requires the ImageServer module. And so my belief is the 3.5.16 does not require the ImageServer. And the instructions for this are actually a combination of what we're going to see with the Omeka IIIFServer as well as the UniversalViewer. So actually I think ImageServer, I'm just going to put ImageServer here because that's what we're going to install. This way we do it in order. So maybe we'll take a quick look back at the instructions for this once we're done with the 3.0 versions. Okay, so the page that we're currently on is going to give us all the instructions we need for the IIIFServer 3.6.31. So you'll notice here under the first couple of paragraphs that we're getting some information about what we're going to also need to install. So ImageServer, which we'll do, as well as UniversalViewer, so that we can view these IIIF standard images. And we'll go through each one. So we're going to look at the section under installation, and installation can be done from the zip. You can also download the source from GitHub or GitLab, one or the other. And if you do that, you're going to need to install PHP Composer. I'm going to not bother with that because that's really more of a developer's sort of process, and we're going to focus more on just as like system administrators implementing these modules for our archive. So we're not going to worry about this because that does get kind of technical and confusing. So we're going to do everything from the zip file, and you can get the download by right-clicking on the version you want and click copy link address. And then what I'm going to do is go back to my terminal. And now I'm here in my modules directory, so you're going to want to make sure you're there as well. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. And I'm going to use the wget command. You may not have that installed, so let's just quickly do sudo apt install wget. I already have it. We're also going to need the zip package, so let's do an up arrow and just get rid of wget and put in zip, and I also have that as well. So you want to run those commands just to make sure you have them because you're going to need them. All right, great. Let's download the zip file, and we'll do that with sudo wget, and then I'm just going to paste that URL that I copied. Go ahead and hit enter. And if we list, we'll see that we have this IIIFServer zip file in our modules directory. Okay, so download the latest release. We've done that. Uncompress the uncompress it in the modules directory. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Let's sudo unzip. And you can hit tab to auto, or if you type I and then tab to autocomplete, you don't have to type all of that out. Go ahead and hit enter. And we can ls to list contents. So it says here, and rename the module folder to IIIFServer. We don't have to do that because that is how it was unzipped. If that is not the case for you, let's just quickly go over what you would do to name or rename that directory. Um, so the way to do that would be to make a new directory. You do sudo, and actually what you would call it is make directory. So you have to do make directory, and then you would just call it IIIF server, but that's not going to work for us because we already have that file. So I'm just going to throw a 1 in there and do ls, and you'll see that we have this triple IF server 1 directory now. And what we would do is run sudo move triple IF server, so the one that we want to rename, and then a slash and then an asterisk, and then the directory of that we want to actually use. So I'd go ahead and hit enter. And if we moved into the server 1 and we ls, you'll see that everything is in there. If we go back and then go into the original one, you'll see that nothing's there. Well, that's not what we want, so we're just going to reverse that with the same command. And actually, I will just do that. Whoops. Oh, okay. We need to go back, and we'll just run that again. And now if I go into the actual directory that I want, you'll see the files are there. So if you have to rename, that is how you go about doing it. I'm just going to remove that one I've made using the sudo rm-r and then the directory name. Okay, let's just make sure everything looks good there. All right, now if we go into the IIIFServer, okay, everything's good there. And technically, that should be all we have to do. Let's give it a check. If we go to our admin dashboard, and if we go to the modules section, you'll see that the IIIFServer is now there for us to install. If we click the install button, we're given a option to configure things. I haven't really taken a very close look at this, and I suspect that most people watching this video are probably going to understand this better than I do. I'm focusing specifically on how to get this up and running on your servers. So all you have to do now is hit submit, and we have the IIIFServer module activated and installed on our instance of Omeka S. But in order for us to actually use this, we're also going to have to install the Omeka S ImageServer module. So I've done the server. And let's just take a quick look and make sure there's nothing else we need to do. We've done that. And so an image server is required to display the images. It can be the module image server. So, so these instructions are telling us that we need to do that. So I'm going to go to the image server module, and you'll see that the latest version that's compatible with Omeka 3.0 and above is this one here. And so we'll go through the exact same process as we did with the IIIFServer. I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy address. Let's see, I am going to look down here at the installation instructions, and we see that PHP should be installed with the extension EXIF. So let's do that. Go ahead and go to my terminal, and we will sudo apt install PHP EXIF. And I already have it, but it's a good idea to run it just in case. And now what we'll do is go through the installation process. Let's just make sure we're not missing anything first. So one thing that they're saying here is the recommended image processor is the VIPS. This is really dependent on how you installed Omeka. For my case, I used ImageMagick and I used the GD extension with the ImageMagick extension, the PHP extensions, and those should work just fine. So I'm going to stick with that because I think installing the VIPS thing will be make things a little more complicated. Okay, so the module IIIFServer is currently required and should be installed first. So we've already installed that. We should be in good shape. We haven't installed UniversalViewer yet, but it's saying here we're going to want to try to make sure that it is 3.4.3 or above before installing that. Okay, so let's see. We need to go back to our terminal, and I'll just go ahead and clear this again. All right, so if we change directories, go back into the modules directory, so you want to make sure that this is where you're at. We can sudo remove the zip file for IIIFServer. We don't need that anymore. And we'll sudo wget, and we'll paste our URL here that we grabbed from the instruction page. Go ahead and hit enter, and we'll ls, and our ImageServer is there. And so we've downloaded the latest release, and we want to make sure that the name of the unzipped directory is ImageServer. So we'll need to remember that. We'll go ahead and sudo unzip the ImageServer. We'll ls, and we have ImageServer, and it does follow the name that they're telling us we need to follow. All right, let's go ahead and remove the zip file. Keep things clean. ImageServer dash, oops, sudo remove ImageServer. Okay, there. All right, now if we go to our modules page here and refresh, we now have ImageServer. So let's go ahead and install that. And again, you're able to configure things to work the way you want them to. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit and just live with the defaults. And everything seems to have been installed properly. So let's just quickly go back to our instructions. ImageServer, and so what we need to do next is, after we've unzipped our download and got everything up and running, we should also make sure that the module headers is enabled and that we've added the cross-origin resource sharing directive here into our .ht access file. So that's pretty easy to do. Let's go ahead and highlight all of that and copy it. And we'll go back to our terminal, and we need to be out of the modules directory and go into the HTML directory. So I'm going to do cd .. to go back. And if I do ls-la, you'll see here that we have a hidden .ht access file. So this is what we're going to edit. We'll do sudo nano .ht access. Put in my password. We'll just scroll down to the bottom here, and we'll paste what we copied off of the website. So we now have our CORS directive. I'm going to go ahead and do Control X and then Y for yes to save, and then enter. And now what we need to do is enable the headers module for Apache 2, our web server. And they give us the command to do that. It's a sudo command, so this won't work if you don't use sudo. Sudo a2enmod headers. So what this is it's Apache 2 enable the module header, and I'll go ahead and hit enter to activate the new configuration. So anytime we do anything to Apache 2, we need to restart it, and you do that with the command that they've told us to use here. So it needs to be run as sudo systemctl restart Apache 2. So there are a number of ways to restart this service, but we will be using the systemctl restart. Go ahead and hit enter. And so at this point, we now have the cross-origin stuff up and running. Okay, one last module to go. Let's go back into our modules directory. Just list. Okay, and now we need the Universal Viewer. So I'm going to go back to the Universal Viewer page. You'll see that there are a number of versions available to us. We're going to use the one that's compatible with Omeka 3.0. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this and copy image address. The process is exactly the same as the others. So we'll be using the from zip. We've downloaded the latest Universal Viewer zip. We don't need to go to that list. Because we grabbed it up here. And then uncompress it in the modules directory. It doesn't tell us to rename, but we'll just assume that. So, okay, let's go to our terminal. Tab. Okay, so we're going to use wget again. Sudo wget, and then we will paste the URL. Hit enter. List contents. So our zip file is there. Let's sudo unzip Universal Viewer, and I hit tab to autocomplete that. ls. We have the Universal Viewer directory. If you have something other than the name Universal Viewer, I would go ahead and go ahead and change the name of that, which we went over with the very first module in case you need to do it. But in my case, I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and remove the zip file. So sudo rm Universal Viewer dash. Okay, so everything's clean in there. Let's go back to our modules page. And if I refresh, we now have the Universal Viewer. I'm going to click install. And we don't have to do any configurations for that. So we're good. All right, let's test things out. And what I'm going to do is actually just deactivate all of these plugins for now. You don't need to do that. I'm just going to do this for demonstration purposes. And then let's see, we need to upload, I'm going to need to upload an item because I don't have any items yet. Oh, no, actually I do. We can go ahead and add new item too. So let's see. We don't have to do a resource template class. I'm just going to go with image. I'm going to call it another test. I don't think we have to. I'm not sure if these are required fields or not, but I'm just going to fill them in anyway. And I'll just go ahead and do test. Let's link some media to it. So, you have the option of using a URL. You could use an existing IIIF image. I don't have anything that's actually IIIF compliant. However, the plugins that modules that we've just added to Omeka S allow for the creation of IIIF images. I'm just going to upload a file. I'll go ahead and choose a file. We'll use this test tutorial. Go ahead and click add. And so now I'm just going to copy my URL here, or IP address. And let's go ahead and do that. And so if I go to my test site, and I now have these images that I can look at. If I look at them, I can click on them. So not much you can do other than view them. But if we go in to our modules and activate them once again, you'll notice that we now have the IIIF viewer, and our images are kind of follow the IIIF standardization. So we can zoom in, we can flip, If we look at the image itself, once we're in here, we now can zoom in and out, whereas we couldn't before. So we'll go back to our browse, and then the other image that I just uploaded, we have this test here. We can do the same, zoom in and out. And so at this point, I believe we have everything configured for IIIF compliance. So you should be able to start using the viewer and hooking into other APIs that allow for people to view and manipulate and kind of play around with IIIF compliant images. And of course, we're not, as I had said at the beginning with the when we were looking at the server itself, the most recent version that's supported is 3.5.16, and so the installation process is slightly different for that, and we can actually take a quick look at that. You'll see that the instructions for this version are actually exactly the same as they were with the IF, with the version that we had used, but it also incorporates the ImageServer instructions. So the IIIFServer instructions we followed didn't bother with the headers module for Apache. We did that in two separate modules. So my impression is that if you're going this route, you don't need to add the ImageServer the way we did with the IIIFServer module for Omeka 3.0. So I hope you found this walkthrough helpful. If you happen to run into issues, you can post them in the comments below, and if time permits, and if I am able to, I will try to help out as best I can. If you have recommendations for other library-related open source systems, please send them my way. I'll be happy to consider them as possible topics for future videos. So again, I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.